Hi everybody, good morning, good afternoon, welcome to our Webex session. I am Kalman Makay from the channel team and on today I will moderate our events. The Webex session's topics is Symantec, key challenges and use cases. Our special guest and presenter is Ajit Nair, our dedicated Symantec DLP consultant. He will guide you on today. In the next 60 minutes on the presentation level, Ajit will share you the details of the on-premise DLP solution from Symantec. The event, as always, will be recorded, and later we will share the recording with you. If you have any questions, then please use the chat window. We will answer meanwhile Ajit presenting the content. End of the session, we will do the Q&A session. So, Ajit, the stage is yours.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Kalman. So my name is Ajit Nair. Let me start by sharing my screen. Thanks for sharing the time and for being present here. Really appreciate it. Please let me know once you see my screen, Kalman.
Yes, I see your screen. Okay, in present mode. Perfect.
Okay. Okay, very good. Give me 1 second. Okay, great. So welcome everyone. My name is Ajit Nair. I'm one of the senior pre-sales engineer for Symantec. And what I've done is I've prepared an agenda today to walk you through our solution, helping you understand where we come from. So we'll discuss our legacy, who we are, our vision, some of the DLP challenges that we see as one of the leading vendors in this space. We'll show you an overview of our DLP solution, followed by an analyst review and questions and answers if you have, and followed by a demo of our solution as well. So without further ado, let me kick off the presentation. So let me tell you about who we are and where we actually come from, right? So our legacy. So we are a sum of many innovative companies, right? So Symantec's foundation is the way Symantec began its journey was in 1982. That's when it began its journey as one of the first movers in the cybersecurity space, setting the stage for decades of innovation. 2007 is when Symantec acquired Vonto DLP, followed by another strategic acquisition of Blue Coat. And between 2019 and between 2020 is where Broadcom acquired Symantec. And that's exactly when VMware acquired Carbon Black. So the bottom half is where you would see Carbon Black's foundation, where it started in 2002, and VMware acquired Carbon Black at the same time in 2019 when Broadcom acquired Symantec. And when Broadcom acquired VMware, that's when the unification happened. That's when Broadcom brought in these two brands together to combine an enterprise security group to provide a wall-to-wall, to deliver a wall-to-wall security protection to keep our customers safe and secure when it comes to their data protection needs. So let's discuss some of the what our vision is and some of the challenges that we see when it comes to DLP, right? So our vision is to help customers protect their most valuable data, because as a vendor in this space, we know that data is scattered everywhere. It could be on the cloud, it could be on premise, right? So we want to make sure that we are providing you with high amount of consistency and high amount of accuracy, because we want to make sure that we are helping you protect regardless of where your data is. And we also help you by building policies, by giving you those policy templates that are available out of the box. So these are some of the challenges what companies look out for. If there is a vendor that can provide those policies that can help protect their data across different data loss channels, regardless of where that data resides. And at the same time, how can we make sure that we can reduce, because that's what companies are looking for, is how they can reduce their operational burden or the operational demand on those DLP admins, right? How can they not have to manage those multiple DLP systems? Is there a vendor that can have a single pane of glass where an administrator can manage their agents then can manage their entire data loss protection strategies from a single unified console. And the answer is Symantec DLP. So on this slide, on the left, if you focus, is our solution is divided into two different flavors. And we have really worked on our licensing, and we have structured it in a very simple and a very straightforward manner. On the left is where you see our DLP core, data loss prevention core, and these are our different detection modules that come along with the DLP core solution bundle. On the right is where you would see our DLP cloud to protect your cloud workloads. So for this session, we'll focus more on the on-premise side. So on the left side is where we have a solution to protect your on-premise workloads. So your endpoint agents. It could be your Mac OS agents or your Windows-based agents. That is for the DLP endpoint. So we have a detection server that manages your agents regardless of what operating systems they have. So it could be, for example, Mac OS. Even Linux is something that we support when it comes to endpoint discovery scanning. On the storage side, we have our network discover systems, our network discover detection servers that help you discover data which is at rest. On the DLP network side, we have our data in motion. So if you want to monitor your emails, so all those emails that are going out and leaving the organizations can be inspected first by Symantec DLP to see if there are any content violations. And based on what policies you have, we can apply those block mechanisms using our DLP for network. Now, the image recognition is something that has two flavors to it. So the image recognition has an optical character recognition, which also comes along the DLP code bundle. And the image recognition also has a form recognition technology, which also is based on the optical character recognition, which is basically our image recognition capability. We also provide you in the same bundle an information-centric analytics, and that's nothing but our UBA offering, which is user entity and behavior analytics. Now, this is all bundled in the same solution, which is DLP Core. Just to touch base on the cloud side is, I'm not going to dig deep into the cloud offering, but these are our different cloud offering. For example, CASB for SaaS. Now that's to protect your SaaS-based applications. So you probably have applications such as Dropbox or Salesforce. So we can actually scan your data at rest using our CASBs for SaaS solution. Similarly, on the IaaS side, if you have your workloads on AWS or Azure or even GCP, we have CASB for IaaS. CASB Gateway is to protect your data in motion, right? So we can actually monitor your traffic going out from a user's desktop. So that traffic is basically proxied through our agent to the cloud SOC to detect any confidential information that is leaving the organization. And we can integrate with your Gmail, for example, or your Office 365 to monitor your SMTP traffic to inspect any sensitive data that is leaving the organization. So that's basically our offering. As I said earlier, the offering is divided in two simple flavors basically. One is on the on-premise side, which is my apologies, on the on-premise side, which is the DLP core, and on the cloud side, which is the DLP prevention cloud. Moving on to the next slide. So as you can see on this circle over here, we give you a complete 360-degree protection across all your data loss channels. So starting from the top right, on the network side, we can inspect and check for any content or any attachments that's going through your email or even your web. So let's say if a user tries to send an email through, let's say, if you have integrated with an Exchange on-prem or any mail transfer agent who is SMTP compliant, we can monitor that email from going out. So what we will do is we will inspect if that particular email contains any confidential information on the email body, or if that email contains any sensitive attachment. And we will inspect that by comparing it against the policies that you have designed in the DLP console. And I'll touch that in a minute. On the storage side, we can help you discover and run scan against your databases. So if you probably have scans, you probably have databases on MS SQL or Oracle database, or if you simply want to extract a table and form an index, we can actually help you discover your data at rest on your corporate websites or your databases or even exchange mailboxes. So let's say as an administrator, you would like to scan a user's mailbox. So you can run an Exchange server scan from the Unified Management Console, which sits right in between. And through the Unified Management Console, you can run an Exchange scan against that user's mailbox. On the cloud side, we can help you protect your SaaS-based applications, or we can integrate with your cloud email provider, such as Gmail or Office 365, to check any sensitive and confidential data which is leaving your organization. And that is with the help of secureLets and gatelets, which I would also touch base on a little during the architecture presentation. On the endpoint side, which we often call it endpoint data, which is in use. So if you have users trying to move data from their desktop to a USB drive, or let's say if they try to print anything which contains sensitive information, those actions can immediately be blocked using our endpoint channel, which is basically an endpoint agent which gets installed on a Windows system or even on a Mac operating system. And that's something that is available using our endpoint channel. And what brings all these different risk vectors and how we provide the protection is through our unified management console. So this is where you can manage all your different detection servers, and you can start creating policies. You can manage all your agents. You can manage all your incident remediation activities right from the center, which is the Enforce Management Server. So let's move on to the next slide. And the reason why we achieve this high amount of accuracy and high amount of consistency is because of our multi-layer detection engine. So these are some of our detection engines that really help you protect your data regardless of how your data looks like. So starting with described content matching is simply a detection engine, a detection technology that can match based on data identifiers or simple keywords or reg access. It can help you design a policy which is based on pattern-based data. You can have a simple keyword data which you want to detect across your different data loss channels. For example, for unstructured data, you can have an IDM based policy. An IDM based policy is where you are, let's say if you have a financial report or any other merger or acquisition reports, you want to protect that particular report from getting exposed, you can develop an IDM based policy. But before that, you create an IDM based profile and you tell DLP that you would like to protect this particular report from going out. And we also support partial matching when it comes to IDM detection. And that's to help you with your unstructured data. Now, when it comes to EDM, which in other words, we also tried, we've known this technology, which is fingerprinting the database against the hash values, and that's EDM for you. We will match only on the values from your records. So if you have anything which is unique to you, which is extremely proprietary in nature, you can use our EDM technology to protect your most sensitive content. So you can use our EDM to detect anything that is structured, anything that is in a tabular data or a tabular format, including PII based information. So this EDM is really designed to find records that are part of an indexed data source. Now, when it comes to EMDI, it principally works on the same technology as EDM. But here we provide you with high amount of accuracy with less memory footprint. And the way we do that is because we use our data identifiers. So unlike EDM, yes, EDM does guarantee the high accuracy that you get out of our technology because we are matching on the data that you have given it to us. But EMDI can also do that with less memory, with less memory and more accuracy, and that's our EMDI technology. So what is it exactly? With EMDI, you can now specify different types of data columns together. And in addition to this, one of the use cases is to how we can reduce that false positive. Now, reducing that false positive is where you can use our EMDI because it really can help you reduce false positive as compared to any regex or any data identifiers that you can design with our DCM based policies. And more importantly, one of the strengths when it comes to EMDI is that, like I said, it really has a less memory footprint because many of our customers they do have huge databases from 300 MB to even 3 GB. So if you think about it practically, it's very difficult, or I would say a little challenging, to push that amount of data across the network to different endpoints because of the limited resources that organizations have. So I would say that EMDI is really an effective tool, an effective way to get those EDM level accuracies, because yes, it does provide you with that accuracy as well, with very less memory overload, because the policies, if you compare it with EDM, are extremely smaller, almost 7 to 10 times smaller when it comes to when you compare it with the EDM technology. On the VML side, which is on the vector machine learning, it really performs that statistical analysis to protect your unstructured data. So, for example, you might have a VML profile. So your first thing is you create a VML profile to understand what you would like to protect. Your basic so this is based on the machine learning model. So you're basically making the system learn. You're training the system with positive and negative examples. So just to give you an example, you might create a profile to protect your source code. So it could be source code is just an example. It could be marketing plans. It could be a manufacturing method. It could be a medical record, for example. So if you take source code as an example, what you are doing is you can train the system by putting in positive examples. Now that positive examples could include source code information which is proprietary to you. And you can use negative examples by putting in open source codes. So this way, this profile can be created, can be tuned, and can easily be updated by adding or removing documents from the training sets. So these are basically our different detection engines that help you achieve the high level of accuracy and high level of consistency with minimal false positives. And this is across the different data loss channels that we previously discussed. Moving on to the data classification side. So we do have a native integration with Microsoft Purview Information Protection. That's what they call it now. So it used to be MIP. So what we can integrate. So starting our DLP version 15.8 is when we introduced this native integration from within the unified management console. So the integration before that was more of a plugin based installation integration. And starting 15.8 onwards, we have really partnered with Microsoft, and we really complement their sensitivity labeling technology, which is using the Purview suite to crack open those MIP files. So we can inspect those MIP protected documents and emails across those supported DLP control points. We can read those MIP labels on documents as well as emails across all DLP control points, and we can drive classification using our detection engines as well as suggest and enforce MIP labels on the endpoints. On the screen, you will see then how effectively we can work with MIP. and how we can drive classification across our on-prem as well as our cloud workloads. So as you can see, for example, on Windows, we can decrypt MIP files. We can also detect those labels. We can also suggest and enforce classification as well. Just to give you a quick example, on the agent side, let's say if a user tries to create a document which might contain some confidential information which is protected by your DLP policies. So as a user tries to save that document, we will we will try and suggest a label which says which will educate the user to apply the correct label. Now, when it comes to enforcement, if there is an attempt to misclassify the document, we will try to enforce the right level of classification. So even if that user is malicious or highly motivated to leak data, if that user tries to misclassify or wrongly classify that document, we will go ahead and enforce that label on the agent side, ensuring that the user chooses the right level, the right label on that document. So this way, we can make sure that we can drive that classification. We can suggest as well as enforce classification when it comes to this integration between DLP and Microsoft. I'll move on to the architecture side, but I'll leave the floor for a minute to just check if there are any questions that you would probably would like to ask, or I can continue and we can have those questions answered at the end of the session.
Some question came, by the way, Ajit, so feel free to check the chat window. It came to the panelist, so the colleagues didn't see, the attendees didn't see, but I answered. Feel free to overview itself the question and itself the answer. So
Okay, I'm not able to see the chat window for my screen. Apologize. Can you read the questions out?
no worries. Then the first question is that, hello team, could I ask you to specify how your DLP solution is working on prevention to share the information through the messenger like Telegram or WhatsApp?
Okay. Okay, that's a good question. So that's basically let's sorry, my apologies. Let me go back over here. So that's on, yeah. Okay. So we have something called as a global file application access. So that's the global AFAC. So what we do is, unfortunately, we cannot decrypt the chat because all those chats are end-to-end encrypted. But we can inspect any uploads on those messenger applications such as WhatsApp or even Telegram, right? Through our global application file access. So we can use our global AFAC technology to monitor those applications for any uploads, but any chats within that are streamed inside those applications are end-to-end encrypted, and we cannot decrypt. So we cannot see what is not shown to us. Basically, that's encrypted, right? So we cannot detect that, but any uploads through that application is something that we can detect, and that's using our global AFAC.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I gave a same answer, by the way. Yours is much more detailed. The second question is that am I right thinking that core and cloud subscription have the different functionality? Cloud, the cloud subscription close the task of on-prem prevention.
Yes. Okay, so if I understood the question is whether these two offerings are separate, right? And the answer is yes.
Yes. Yeah.
The answer is yes. On the core
Okay.
side, so yeah,
Third
go ahead.
question: how does Symantec DLP protect against generative AI like Copilot and OpenAI? Very exciting question,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right? So on the on-premise side, we do have our endpoint agent, which tracks those user activities. So we cannot see what's inside those applications again, because I don't think that those APIs lets us view those content inside those chats. But and I have this in the demo as well. So for example, OpenAI, ChatGPT, or any other AI generative app, for example, Google Gemini, or any other AI app, we can block the copy paste from the user's desktop onto those applications. So we will monitor the clipboard actions. So if someone tries to copy any credit cards, for example, or any sensitive data onto those AI apps, or we can block that using our Symantec endpoint agent. And on the cloud side, we have a full-blown gatelet for ChatGPT. So with our cloud offering, we can also protect those AI apps such as ChatGPT. But that doesn't stop us there. We can also create custom gatelets for Google Gemini, for example. DeepSeek is one of them. But again, DeepSeek, I think it's not no longer allowed by many organizations, but other applications such as Google Gemini, Copilot, and even ChatGPT, Deep AI, for example, all those can be protected using our custom gatelets. So we can have policies in place to inspect traffic through those applications to our cloud SOC, and just block that traffic if it contains any sensitive information.
Thank you, Ajit. And the last question, and I think then you can move forward in the presentation. Is there any full Ubuntu support planned? So the question is the platform support.
I think we do support Ubuntu as well, along with Solaris, but I will have to, not Solaris, sorry, AIX, I believe. But RHEL, yes. We on the Linux side of things, we do support EDAR scanning, which is endpoint discovery at rest for the RHEL platforms. But that's only for the discovery at rest, and that's right now our offering for on the Linux side of things. And I believe we do support Ubuntu as well, but I'm going to have to get back to you to check what Ubuntu LTS versions we support, and whether or not we support Ubuntu or not. So I'll have to come back to you. But RHEL, yes, we do support EDAR scanning on them.
Thank you, Ajit.
All right. Okay, so I'll move on. On the data classification side, before I move on to the architecture, excuse me, I would like to also point out that we are vendor agnostic when it comes to classification. And that means that our integration just doesn't stop with Microsoft. Yes, with Microsoft, we do have an integration which helps us detect those labels across different vectors when it comes to detecting those MIP labeled documents. But that doesn't stop us there. As we are vendor agnostic, we can integrate with any classification vendor, and we can detect based off the metadata. Now, metadata detection is where a vendor would install or would classify a document with its metadata. So let's say if a vendor deploys its classification tool, um, and let's say if it's a Microsoft Word document, that classification would have installed a metadata, which is a value of data inside of the data, right? Basically, inside of the Word file. So we can have policies in DLP which can inspect that particular metadata, and we can stop that confidential document from getting leaked out of the organization. So we can do integration with MPIP, which is our native integration through our unified console, but we are also open to integration when it comes to classification based off the metadata integration. So we can have policies in place, and we can detect those labels for data in use, data in motion, and also data at rest. So we can detect those confidential labeled documents. So if someone has labeled a document as restricted or top secret or PII or anything based off that metadata value, we can design policies in DLP to stop that data leakage. So that's on the classification side. Now here's the architecture. Now this architecture is basically a combination of both the on-premise as well as the cloud, right? Now the DLP architecture starts right in the middle with the enforce server, and that's really our central management system for all the administration and reporting needs. And it is accessed through our UI console, which you can see, which I will also show you. And our different DLP detection servers, as you can see, network print for email, for web, endpoint discover, endpoint prevent, all our all our detection servers will perform the detection and capture incidents within for all the different channels, and they are all relayed back to the central enforce server. That's what we call it, the enforce management server. Now, when these incidents are captured, regardless of the location, they are collected and stored in the central enforce server, but first they are stored in the Oracle database, and it is then presented to the enforce console for reporting and remediation. Now, our DLP interactions with the cloud communicates with our DLP CDS, right? So that's our cloud detection service instances. For example, our cloud detection service for REST API, for ICAP, and even for SMTP, which handle direct integrations with CloudSock, right? And our CloudSwig and email security service. Now, these integrations basically allow for DLP policies to be shared and enforced across a hybrid environment. And that's why I wanted to bring this slide up, because since we're discussing only the on-prem side, but we have customers who have more of a hybrid requirement, because they have, of course, they have data on the cloud. As there are companies moving on to cloud, we do see a massive cloud adoption. But what about on-premise? We cannot leave behind on-premise, and that's why I brought this architecture along where this architecture along which discusses how we can have a hybrid and a successful hybrid deployment, right? So when integrated with DLP, our cloud SOC, which you see over here, sends the cloud data it monitors to the DLP CDSs for analysis against whatever DLP policy you have. And in addition to those detection rules, the DLP policies can also include some of the response rules. So response rules, in other words, are the actions that you want to take once you detect those confidential documents or that confidential or sensitive data. So for example, a response rule might tell CloudSock to block an attempted download when that confidential data is detected, right? So those DLP policies can be based not only on a specific file content, but also on contextual attributes, right? So this diagram over here, the one that you see on this slide, it includes our CloudSock securelets, which uses the APIs to scan for data which is at rest. And then it also has a CloudSock gatelet to basically monitor the data that is in motion, right? On the DLP cloud detection service for CloudSwig, sorry, let me go back. On the top left over here, you can see our CloudSwig, which integrates with our DLP cloud CDSs for ICAP. And what CloudSwig essentially does is it forwards the HTTP, HTTPS, and FTP traffic to our ICAP service, which is our CDS for ICAP for content inspection. And based on what response rule you have, you can block that particular content from going out, right? If there is of course, if the policy matches, that's when that confidential data will be blocked. Otherwise, we can pass over all that traffic freely without any issues. Now, the SMTP over here, which is the cloud CDS for SMTP component shown in this diagram, it can integrate with, as discussed previously, with Gmail, for example, Google Workspace, or your Microsoft 365 Exchange, in the cloud, or even an Exchange server which is hosted on the IaaS platform or even on premise. Now, the CDS gets these DLP policies, all these different CDS, with the one for ICAP, for CASP, which is the data at rest, and even for SMTP. They get all these policies from the DLP enforce server. The connected dots show that all these policies interact between the CDS and our DLP enforce management server. So the bottom half basically is describes our on-premise, right? So this way you can actually have a true hybrid deployment where you have different detection servers to protect your on-premise workloads, DLP network prevent for email, network monitor, which will monitor your passive HTTP or HTTPS traffic or TCP traffic basically, and your endpoints, for example. Now again, endpoints have two flavors. So the single agent does two jobs. It can discover data at rest on different, let's say, Windows platforms, or even RHEL based discovery is something that I just shared earlier. And it can also prevent data which is in use. That's the two flavors of the endpoints. And all this, the different network detection servers are complemented with our image recognition capability, which is using our sensitive image recognition. So this is just like an overview of how a typical hybrid DLP implementation would look like. And this is all controlled and managed by a single centralized enforce server where you can create, you can author policies, you can review incidents, you can manage all your agents, you can create agent packages and deploy them across your different detection servers, your endpoint detection servers, and your policies which you design are immediately propagated to different detection servers that you choose to propagate on. I'll jump on to the demo. These are some of the use cases which we had discussed about during when we launched the idea of doing this webinar. So let me jump on to the demo quickly, and we can just quickly show you how DLP UI looks like and how the demo feels like. So let's quickly jump on to the demo. So this is our management console over here. Kalman, I hope my screen is still visible. I just switched to another console.
Yes, confirmed, we see the DLP
Okay.
console.
Okay, very good. All right. So this is our enforce management console. So as you can see right now, my console, my enforce server is integrated with an Active Directory domain. So we do support integration with not only Active Directory, but you can have MFA with a SAML based integration, or even an Active Directory based integration. So mine is already integrated with Active Directory over here. So let's jump on to the different policies that we have. So this is where you come and you create policies. You can start creating policies from the scratch. So we let you do that. You can have custom-based policies, or you can have many other policies from our policy template. So some of the policies that are available, for example, if I look at the HIPAA and high-tech based policies, so we can just take a look as to these policies is something that I have not created. These are policies that are built in and that come and that are shipped out of the box. So these policies contains predefined detection rules and responses. And as you can see, this is a HIPAA based policy, and that's why you see these keywords that are already predefined in the policy template, right? So this is our HIPAA-based policies. You can create exceptions. You can add group exceptions if you do not want this policy to be applied to a certain group of users. That's also possible. This is another one, for example, a resume-based policy. Just as an example, maybe confidential documents. If you see here, again, these policies are all created out of the box. So by default, we give you more than 70 out of the box policies that are available and are shipped with our DLP solution, which is our DLP core solution. Now let's go back to the active policy. So again, in this policy, The ones that you see in the red are all suspended policy, and you can activate them by just single clicking this policy and activating those policies. So at this moment, I have an IDM based policy, which is indexed document based policy. And right now, this I have created a policy where it's detecting a document which I have uploaded in the enforce, and that document is indexed, profiled, and based on that profile, I've created a policy which is matching on a minimum document exposure of 60%. So it's up to you. You can define this threshold within the policy itself. So, and this is called as the partial IDM matching. And based on, again, if you want to have group exceptions, you can add exceptions over here. So let's say if you want to accept a group of users, maybe VIPs or senior director levels, VP levels, if you don't want those policies to be affecting them, then that's when you create an exception. The response is, what happens? What actions do you want to take as an administrator when such policies are exposed in your organization? So going back, so this is what the response looks like. So if I open up the response rule, this response rule tells me that it will block this action based on the endpoint channel. It could be a network based channel, and an application file access. So you can define this. This is completely customizable. This portion also that the user will see is also customizable. So if I go back over here to, let's say, DLP test, and let's try to move some confidential document. So I do have an IPM, some IPM, sorry, an IDM based policies over here. So let's say if I try to move something which is, let's say this, it's a document, right? So if you see, this is immediately blocked, and this part shows here that which policy was triggered. And as a user, you have an option to choose what happens. I mean, were you aware of this? You can just simply say that no, or if you want to say something else, so you can, this is part of the test, and that's about it, right? And just click on OK. So this action was immediately blocked, right? And if I go back to the incidents, so if I go back to the endpoint incident, you will see a corresponding incidents getting created just now. Now, if you see, there's 100% match of this document, and it also populates what application was used, what URL was used, who the user was, the information about the IP address, what justification was used is something that is shown out of from the incident remediation screen. Let's try to do something else. If I try to open the same document, so let's go back to this document. Now, remember, we have a 60% exposure on this document, so which means that DLP is only interested if there is a 60% exposure on this document. Now, if I try to print this document as is, there, let's try to print this document. You can ignore this. I have an integration with another classification solution. That's why this pop up. But if I try to print this document again, this print is also being immediately blocked by the endpoint agent. And again, this is shown over here. So it creates that user awareness that if the user is not aware, then the user now becomes aware that this particular action is blocked. Now, if I try to do a control A, and if I try to do a controls, hang on, so this is stuck right now. Yes. So again, print actions is basically blocked. Let's close this. Let's try to open something else. Let's try to move, let's say, sorry, this is at this moment stuck. Again, so because this profile is already indexed, there's no way that I can share this particular document because my policies are protecting this particular document from going out of the organization. Let me close this out and let me restart the program. Meanwhile, let's go back to some of the other documents that I have. Now, we also support Arabic characters by default, which is out of the box. So there's no need for you to create an Arabic-based installer or anything. This is all available out of the box. So Arabic actors, I have a policy over here which is detecting an Arabic language. Now I have a rule over here which is detecting this particular language. Again, you can, this is customizable. If you want to report, if you want DLP to trigger an incident based on at least one match, this could be maybe 50 match. So this is again customizable. And based on what is the action that you want to take, and this is something that is defined over here, right? So you have a custom based, I'm sorry, an endpoint based action. So if I try to move this document again, if I go back here and let's try to move this document onto a USB drive as an example. So let's go back to this PC D drive. Now remember, I have clipboard monitoring enabled as well, and I have USB monitoring enabled as well. So if I try to move this document, again, this document is immediately blocked because this action does not allow sharing of data to a USB drive. So this drive at this moment is presented as a USB drive. So if I go back over here, if I go back to the incidents, you will see a USB based incident that will be created. So that incident has not come in yet. Yeah, there you go. So if you see over here, immediately this action was also blocked using our DLP endpoint agent. And again, whatever is matched is immediately highlighted in this matches component, in this matches section, and all the other user attributes are also populated. Now you also have a custom attributes, an ability to have custom based attributes, which is based off the Active Directory to give you more information about who the user is, who the managers of that user is, and that's available with our integration with Active Directory, right? Let's check some of the other use cases. I already showed you the USB drive. Let's check on the ChatGPT or Deep AI, for example. So let's go here, back to the endpoint. Let's open up. Let's say this is Teams, for example. And if I try to share the same document over here, which is from the master set, and I have a credit card document over here, and if I try to move this document, which contains a credit card information, again, if you see, this is immediately blocked using our endpoint agent. So I think this will also answer your question. Similarly, on WhatsApp or any other app messenger or messenger applications, the same mechanism the same function will be in use using our endpoint agent. So we will monitor those upload actions when it comes to uploading sensitive data on these applications. Similarly, on OneDrive, if someone tries to, let's say, upload a file on OneDrive, which is a cloud application, and let's say if they try to upload something which is an IDM based policy, which is again restricting the policy, if you see, this is again immediately blocked, right? On ChatGPT, for example, if I try to move the same data, which is the Excel data, and if I try to move it over here, again, this is also immediately blocked by our endpoint agent, and a corresponding event would be immediately shown on the DLP console. Now, this was the printer-based event, which I just showed you. This has a document exposure of 100%, and this is a print action because that's what the incident tells you, that it's an endpoint-based, print-based action which was immediately blocked. And if you notice, this action is extremely immediate. There's no lag, right? And the incidents also come in really fast. Let's go back over here. Sorry, let's go back to the incidents to, again, these incidents are categorized as per different channels. So if you have an SMTP based incident or an HTTP or HTTPS based network monitor incidents, that are all captured over here. Let's go back to the endpoint incident. So we just did a credit card data. Now, this is where you would see what kind of data was discovered, the application that was used. So it was Google Chrome, what URL was used. So if you want to gain visibility for this particular URL, which is the ChatGPT URL, just click on it and you will see all these policy violations that has taken place on ChatGPT as an example, right? Let's go back here and let's try to use something else, maybe an email. Now, let me show you our form recognition. Now let's open this form recognition. Now, before I show you that, let's go to data profiles and let's go to form recognition. Now, form recognition really helps you to to protect your customer data or your unique data from getting leaked by your employees. So form recognition is where you index a blank form, and if someone tries to leak a confidential data, which is the same form, and it contains confidential information such as this, then what DLP does is, using its OCR engine, it will compare it against a blank form, and if it finds any data within the form, it will flag that incident. Now, just to show you this in the demo, I'll try to forward this form, which contains this customer information, to Bob, for example, and let's see what happens. So this is using our SMTP channel, where if you see, these are my two domains, SYMC local and SYMC.test. So, and sits in between these two domains is where DLP sits in between. So imagine this: Office 65 user tries to send an email. That email is first routed to DLP for inspection, and based on what DLP finds, if it finds any policy violation, it will block that email from going out. If it doesn't, that email is free to go, and that email will be sent out to the internet and will be delivered to the end recipient, right? So if I let's say let's go back to the network based incident and see if it has caught any of the any of the this emails. So I think yes, it has found this policy violation, and this is how the form recognition will work. So it will tell you exactly what it found, and it highlights all the filled information. So you can try to compare this with an actual uh, income tax form, or it could be a school form, or it could be a bank account form, or it could be anything which is unique to you. So you index a blank form, and DLP will compare it against that indexed form, a blank form, and see if it contains, even if it contains any piece of information, that piece of information is immediately highlighted and sent back to the administrator for review. Any other questions you have? I'll leave the floor over to any questions, Kalman. If the audience has asked any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
No new question came. When you presented the content, I answered them. Feel free to go through and overview if you think. But basically,
Uh,
all of the questions answered. Feel free to add your comments or additional information.
I did see some in the chat. I did see some questions while I was presenting, but I couldn't. I don't know. I cannot access the chats for some reason.
Hmm? Interesting. Try to close the screen sharing and maybe you will see the chat window.
All right.
Maybe. Theoretically, you should see.
Uh, um, so video share.
And
Oh
meanwhile,
yeah,
for,
I
for
see
the
it now.
audience, yes, and meanwhile, for
Okay,
the
thank you.
audience and the guest, if you have any question, feel free to ask. This is the floor to answer all of your questions. By the way, a lot of questions came, and I believe we need to continue, or we need to build that itself the series, because on today we talk about the on-premise
Yeah,
DLP, which was very agent focused, by the way, so we can protect
right.
on the web and the email protection level. So I believe that we need to continue. And Ajit, my pleasure if you can continue the series, and we will go through all of the main function of the DLP on-premise and in the cloud.
Yes, so I think one of the questions I'm reading over here is, when deploying data classification, can I choose or customize in DLP where the agent can read the metadata of a classified file? So I think yes. I mean, so by default, when it comes to agent detection, by default the metadata detection is turned off. So the first thing in our DLP is to turn on that metadata detection, both on the server side and also on the agent side. So that's how the agent will read the metadata of a classified file. So if the agent finds anything which the policy instructs the agent to do, then yes, the agent will go ahead and will flag that particular it will inspect that particular file, and if it finds that metadata, it will block based on what response rule you have you have done. It will go ahead and block that particular data from going out. So the answer is yes.
Okay, a new question came.
Uh,
When
yes.
blocking the source code, how we can write all source code type? For me, the question is not 100% clear. Uh,
If a classified file is encrypted by password, is it okay? There's an interesting question. If a classified file is encrypted by password, is it possible in any way for DLP to identify? No, so no, we will not be able to identify which is locked because we don't have the keys to open it. So anything that is encrypted, we cannot decrypt it, and we cannot find what's inside. So we will not be able to read that metadata for that particular file. So even for, I think there's a question followed by this question, is that if the file is password protected, or yeah, and I think the answer is the same. Yes, MIP encryption is supported because we have those decryption keys, and that's when the detection server, will interact with the Azure portal and get those keys and decrypt that file, and that's how we can drive classification with MPIP. So we support decryption when it comes to those MIP labeled documents, but otherwise we can detect a password protected file. Let's also show you that quickly on my screen. So we can have policies in place. Let's say this one, for example, I'm opening a policy, I'm adding a rule, and I can have a rule based on different types of file type, right? So if I now these are all the rule conditions, right? So we do provide you with that granular controls and various and different types of file types. So as you can see, we do provide you with different types of files that you can detect, and one of them is, I think, password protected or something. Yes. So if you see here, encryption formats, so we can detect those encrypted documents, but we cannot open those documents and we cannot read what's inside because it's password protected. But we can detect on those protected. We can detect if a file is protected. So yes, even there was an interesting use case the other day when I was presenting it to one of the customers in the Gulf region. So they had a use case to protect audio files. And interestingly, we have a policy, a rule within our policy management system where we can detect different audio file formats as well. So I'm just kind of showing it to you guys because this could be maybe one of the use cases that you guys probably have with your customers.
Ajit, soon we need to close the session. Two,
Can I?
two,
Uh,
two questions
okay.
was unanswered. The first is the blocking the source code, how we can write all source code type. This question is not 100% clear for me. Uh,
Yeah,
Maybe the
me
question
too.
relating how we can handle the source code or the where the source code reside maybe. Uh, and the second thing, from Rizaldon, that on the gatelets, is there plans to get proper diagnostic information from the gatelet at some
Mhm.
point? At present, it is hard to detect or troubleshoot anything blocked or prevented by the gatelets, as one have to log a call with the blocking
With the
support. It's
support.
hard to make a sense of issues on gatelets such as social media platforms. The question you can answer to this, or part of the dedicated Gitlet or DLP Cloud
Yeah.
session, we can answer to this.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to troubleshooting, yes, the scope is limited. We will have to reach out to the Broadcom support team because that's all the logs, and they have a graph where they can check those usage details, if the connection is established, if the connection is intact, and all that is basically there in the back end. So yes, that troubleshooting aspect, it is limited as of now, but I'll be happy to talk over this in our next session, where we can focus more on securelets and gatelets and provide a deeper dive into how our cloud sock can cover those and address those use cases. But very quickly, if I can take maybe just another minute or two, I wanted to discuss our endpoint discovery at rest scanning for RHEL, right? So this is where you come over to manage, and you can discover your targets, and this is where you can manage and administer your endpoint scanning, which is supported on Windows as well as RHEL, right? So I have an RHEL machine over here, and you target basically a list of machines. I just have one, so that's why you see one in the list. It could be many. Filters is where you define what you want to scan, where you want to scan. You can have an exclude filter as well. And advanced is where you can pause a scan, you can schedule a scan at a certain time because you don't want to disturb your production hours. So you can schedule a scan during off production hours, maybe at 12 midnight, maybe. So that's something that you can do. And simply just click on this, hover over to the scanning options and start the scan. So once it starts the scan, so it will take some time, and because we don't have a lot of time right now, I'll directly jump into the scan history. So just yesterday, I ran a scan against my RHEL machine, and if you see, it gives you this entire history of what happened, right? And it was able to scan my RHEL path, and it did create a lot of incidents, so 6 in total. And this symbol over here signifies that it was also able to successfully quarantine the data. So quarantining is moving that data to a safe location. So the minute it found this confidential data sitting on a user's desktop, I'm sorry, a user's machine, which is RHEL based, we can move that data onto a quarantine location, and that is something that you can specify within the response rules. So these are some of the response rules that are again available out of the box. I didn't create them completely. Some of them are, yes, customized, but if you see here, I have an quarantine based policy. So this is the channel discover, and this is the quarantine path. So this is something, again, you choose where you want your files to be protected or moved. So that's on the endpoint scanning. I hope I've
Okay.
covered all the use cases, and I apologize. I think the presentation took a little, it was extended, but yes, I'm happy to conduct another session and to hopefully give a hybrid.
Definitely, definitely. I believe that we will organize additional session because itself the DLP as a solution is very exciting and very wide, so we can talk a lot of about this technology. Colleagues, we overran a little bit on the planned schedule with 5 minutes, so now we need to close the session, the first session of the DLP. In the next few days or within the next few hours, in the chat window, I shared the playlist, the YouTube playlist. So the recorded session will be available there. Feel free to open, feel free to subscribe, follow continuously. So the recorded session will be available soon, within an hour. Ajit, thank you very much for your presentation. Thanks for the attention on the audience side. I hope the delivered content was useful. If you have additional questions, then I'll share my contact information on the webcam. Please read the QR code and contact with me. If you have any remark, if you have any question, comment, etc., feel free to contact with me. Thank you again. Have a nice day. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Keep in touch.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Bye.